everyone, welcome back to the Library of Parthos. My name is Sarah, and today I have a wrap-up of everything that I read in the month of October. Some of these I do have full reviews of, some of them I don't. So I'm going to quickly just kind of share some of my thoughts of these books. I have them ranked from lowest to highest. So at the bottom of my list for things that I read in the month of October, I have two books that I read on Kindle Unlimited, What Lies Beyond the Veil and What Hunts Inside the Shadows. I picked these books on Kindle because I love fantasy, so pretty much anything involving Fae characters I'm going to at least try to read. Granted, I didn't enjoy these books a lot, but I did read both of them, and I do plan on reading the third book that comes out in a couple of months. What that says about my taste, I'm not sure. The only thing that kept me coming back with these stories was this mystery around who the main character is. So just a very quick summary. There's a veil that separates the human world and the Fae world, and that veil is torn down. And so suddenly there are these humans that have been marked to be mates of the Fae, and now they are being, hunted down so that they can be taken over to the Fae realm so that they can be with their mates. And of course, throughout history, versions of this story and how this works have been told and changed, and everyone has a different idea of it. But our main character, Estrella, is Fae-marked, and she is the mate of a very powerful Fae. And you find out that she isn't technically human, and she has these powers that aren't typical of people that have been Fae-marked. And so that's really the only thing that's kind of keeping me going with this series, as I'm interested to see how that's going to play out. It's very romance heavy, like too romance heavy. The Estrella's mate is way too possessive for my liking. It's just like so over the top. And I love romance, so that's saying a lot for me. But I am going to read the third book, though I might end up just kind of skimming through or just like peeking at the end. I do want to see what ends up happening with this character. It's just all the filler is not great. All right, next up, just slightly above that series, or maybe a little higher above that series, are Fable and Namesake. I do have a full review of these if you are interested. I enjoyed this series, however, a lot of the characters I did not feel like I was attached to them, and I kept forgetting who people were, which was kind of the theme of my review if you end up watching it. I was interested in the relationship between Fable and her father Saint, so kind of like the last series, I am gonna read, there's a book coming out just about her father Saint. It's called Saint. So I am gonna read that because I'm interested in his backstory, but this is not a series I think I'm going to revisit, and actually before I filmed this, I had it in a pile of books to get rid of, so I'm glad I read it, but I'm done. The next the next four I should say, were really hard for me to rank, and just because there were elements that maybe I had some criticisms of, but also the stories were so captivating. So next on the list, I'm gonna put Certain Dark Things. I just did a review of this last week. This story I enjoyed more than I thought I would. It's a vampire story set in like a dystopian Mexico City type thing. It reminded me a lot of What We Do in the Shadows and how the characters related to each other. I was very intrigued by the characters. I was interested in the events that were happening. It's just not a book that I think I'm going to revisit many times, because urban fantasy is still kind of new for me, so it's not really my thing. But I did enjoy this. I'm glad I read it, and I like a lot. I've read two books by this author and I liked both of them, so I'm going to explore some of her other work as well. Okay, next book on my list. I really debated putting it in this video, but I did read it this month. Okay, so here's the thing about this book. It is fiction. The authors made that very clear. However, there are some very disturbing things in this book that I think were probably hold up very true in real life. And the thing that intrigued me the most about this book and why I have it ranked so high on my list this month is because of the way that she created the main character and the way that we see the main character's perspective change throughout the book. So next up on my list is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This is a fictionalized account of a young girl who is abused by a teacher at the boarding school that she attends. What really intrigued me about this book is that we get part of the story from the main character, Vanessa, when she's young in school when all of this is happening. And then we also get part of the story, I think like 17 years later when she's an adult. And you can see, first of all, how her perspective of what's going on changes. When she's young, she's romanticizing a lot of it. And her descriptions, she kind of writes off things that are extremely problematic as just part of being in a relationship. As we look at her perspective years later, when she's in her 30s, you can see how the events of her teenage years have really impacted her adult life. Some of the criticism that I did have for this book, I mean, huge trigger warning here that this is not for everyone. It was very disturbing to read. And there were many times where I felt like we didn't need another detailed account of what was happening to this girl. And there was quite a bit of filler as well. However, I was just so like shocked at what I was reading that I powered through this one pretty quickly. So this is one of those books that I feel like I shouldn't recommend, but if you are able to handle the content, I think it's worth a read. Up next, I really need to stop giving away copies of books before I film videos. So up next on my list would be Gallant by V.e Schwab. I have gotten better about giving away books too soon, but I totally forgot about filming a wrap-up video and passed my copy of Gallant along. However, this would have been the next up on my list for the month of October. It was a very fast-paced book. I typically don't do like the horror genre, and I think that kind of fell into that horror category. I thought the story moved at a very fast pace. I thought the characters were relatable. I thought the villain was well crafted. So I really, really enjoyed the story. Just, again, not like a genre that I would typically think to pick up, but it was enough to make me want to read other works by V.e Schwab. So I hope to do that soon. And I think I asked this in my full review too, if you have read other books by V.e Schwab, please let me know like where to go next, because I'd like to get into some more of her writing. Last up on my list, at the top, kind of surprised it made it up there, but The Devil Makes Three. Again, not really my genre. I did try to go with the spooky theme this month, but this is much more of like a thriller, horror sort of book. What really kept me interested in this story was how the characters were crafted, their friendship to romance relationship, the complexities of the relationships between the main characters and the other characters in the story, how the author used specific characteristics about each of the main characters to kind of craft a problem around that was then solved with their specific skill sets. So I didn't really have a lot of criticism for this book either. I really liked how everything wrapped up. There was a lot of action, there was a lot of character development, and then everything wrapped up pretty well at the end, and I was happy with that. So that's everything that I read for the month of October. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!